Trevor, I'm gonna start with you. Your takeaways from watching. I know you were watching your beloved Cougars, but your takeaway from the outcome of Ohio State and Notre Dame.
I'll say this. I was extremely impressed with the way that Notre Dame came out on the defensive side of the ball. We've talked a lot in preseason about how powerful of an offense that Ohio State has, and they do. They have a very powerful offense, and they're going to make a lot of people pay for that throughout this season. But for a majority of the game, they made C.J. Stroud, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the country, look just, good, but not tearing it up, right? They did a great job of kind of holding that offense and Jackson Smith and Jigba to a limited number of explosive plays. So I was impressed by that. Now, flip that coin over. C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith and Jigba, the Ohio State Buckeyes in the horseshoe. It's tough to go in there and win. They just kept battling it out. And that's why I think C.J. Stroud's one of the best in the country, because he just stayed even keel and kept coming. Got a huge win week 1 at home.
Agreed. Bryce, were you equally as impressed with Stroud? And how did you read the game? Buckeyes, huge favorites. They look like a group of Marvel characters coming out there. But the Irish hung with them. What did you take away when you were watching this battle?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of C.J. Stroud. I like guys that can kind of keep that even keel that Trevor was talking about. There's never too highs or too lows. It's just you got to keep that even keel, especially in big games like this. And then obviously, too, coming into the season where I think there was more hype about Ohio State last year. Now there's more hype about C.J. Stroud this year. That's just tough to play into. But man, I tell you what, this Jim Knowles, I think, is going to have this defense flying around. And that was something that really stood out to me. Those guys were headhunting the whole day. That front seven is kind of what Jim Knowles is known for, especially at Oklahoma State, what he was known for there. He has that defense buying into what he is preaching. And I think they had a young, inexperienced defense last year. Heck, you know way more about the Buckeyes than I do in terms of that statement, but I do think that he's got these guys bought in, and they fly around. So it was a fun game to watch. And again, just a lot of pressure on 7, a lot of pressure on 11. Other guys stepped up and they got the win. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Speaking of pressure there, Hack, the follow off of Bryce's point, who did you feel had more pressure? The Irish coming in wearing that number 5 national ranking on their back, or Ohio State, who people expect to just burn through their schedule, double-digit wins, as Vegas does, and send a message back to this upstart crew?
Yeah, I think naturally, with the way Ohio State's been churning, that machine's been rolling for the past decade or so. I think their expectations were a little bit tougher heading into this game. And I think it's not to discredit Notre Dame. And one of the main reasons why I love these type of matchups in week 1 is because you really get to see what the offseason, what the preparation come to fruition with a great opponent in week 1. And you get to see how both of these teams are going to react, win or lose. But ultimately, I think it's a positive experience. And for Ohio State, reflecting a little bit back to last year with that early season loss to Oregon, CJ threw for 400 yards, the defense got torched. But I really think that Ohio State held their composure. And I think that's a lot of credit due to the experiences they did have last year with these early out of conference, big time matchups. And for me, it was just the way that the offense kept plugging. Notre Dame did a great job of disrupting their timing, throwing some things that I think got CJ and Ryan Day off their mental game a little bit. But that beginning of the fourth quarter, things started clicking for them. They took advantage of some explosives and ultimately won the game. And that's what you got to do. If you're going to go deep into the college football playoff, you got to be able to overcome those hurdles within a game. I think that's what they lacked last year. And again, I think part of it was because they were playing catch up sometimes with a defense that had some gaps. I think Jim Knowles and that defense showed a lot of maturity. And I think that there's even more room for growth on that side of the ball after watching tonight. But, to your point though, George, I think both teams are going to come out better for this. And I think it was really good for Ohio State and specifically the Big Ten for them to do that week 1 and set a standard and keep things moving.
Yeah, 100%. This is the second year in a row Buckeyes have invited a heavyweight And to start the season off last year, I mean, it goes like that. Sometimes they brought in Oregon and they could not get past Oregon. This year they brought in Notre Dame. Both are going to make them better. My impression on this is the Buckeyes won without their fastball tonight. I think we all kind of thought Stroud is going to get up around that 400 mark. We're going to turn this thing into a track meet. You don't have track shoes on, and we're going to just say go. It didn't go that way, because it kind of turned into, from a heavyweight fighter, it turned into a ground and pound. And we learned Ohio State can ground and pound against a talented Notre Dame team. I was also impressed with Notre Dame's quarterback and their passing game. Didn't expect much. And they're still going to try to learn this on the fly, do this on the fly with Buckner. But you saw a lot of planned quarterback runs because they're trying to get him in the game, and that's how he can contribute. But he did step back, started the game out with a 50-plus yard shot, had a couple chunk plays down the back stretch. Notre Dame was impressive, but Ohio State, they just showed that championship medal. Everybody's not going to get dropped in the second round. We took 12 rounds tonight. But that's 12 rounds of, toughness to exude. We're not just a home run team. We will grind it out with you.